Hello!
Hi.
So welcome back to my channel. I'm filming on a new camera today.
Yeah!
So that is the camera and that is me. It's so cute. A little square on my face. I feel like Teddy from Good Luck Charlie. But yeah, now I have a camera. Thank you to my parents who got this for my 21st birthday.
Wow.
It's weird. My face is like here. My goal is to get my channel monetized by the end of this year, since I'm graduating at the end of this year. So yeah, that is the big hope. Well, technically tomorrow, as I'm filming this, I am 21 years old and I will also have been running Mahal Made Co., my small business, for 3 full years. If you don't know, Mahal Made Co. I created on my 18th birthday, since Etsy has a rule where you have to be 18 to create a shop. Not everyone follows that rule, but I followed that rule. I just wanted to talk about the things that I've learned, and also a little bit about my journey as a small business owner and artist, and specifically a small art business owner. I feel like I've learned to kind of differentiate my specific small business as a small art business, especially being a business major in college. It's very easy to, I guess, kind of get lost in the big startup space, and I kind of want to differentiate myself as a small art business rather than like a startup fast money kind of business or even a dropship business. So but yeah, I have my little notes here. This video might be a little bit long, so get comfy with your crafts and whatnot. Okay, but before we start, I'm wearing these little troll earrings that I made, and also my Nana sweater. This video is scheduled to go up hopefully before the end of my anniversary sale, so go ahead and shop that 21% off of your Nana sweater pattern or anything on my shop. And speaking of the Nana sweater pattern, I'm actually going to be giving one away at the end of this video, so stay tuned for how to enter that, I guess. So the first thing I have, it's more of a tip for anyone who is thinking of starting a small business and you are an artist. Please remember that you do not have to monetize every single hobby that you pick up or everything that you are interested in. Just because, for example, you know how to crochet does not mean that you need to sell what you make from your crochet projects. Having to wait until I was 18 to start my small business, since I learned how to crochet over quarantine when I was 17, I had to wait at least a year for my skills to improve. And even then, I've improved a lot over the 3 years that I have been running my small business. So definitely, I know that a lot of crocheters want to start selling as soon as they start crocheting, but it is way more beneficial for you and the customer if you wait until you're a little bit more experienced and your pieces are a little bit more well put together. And sometimes a hobby can stay a hobby without becoming your job. You can easily avoid burnout this way, and you don't need to rush into any more commitment than you can handle. Running a small business is a lot more commitment than just creating something and saying, hey, please buy this. It is a lot, especially if you want to advertise online. So yeah, I know that it can be, especially in this economy, a lot of pressure to just make money with every single thing you do, but it is important to have hobbies that you don't necessarily profit off of. For example, I like to play a game, but I'm not monetizing that because that's more of just a little baby hobby that I have. And I think really baby hobbies are really good to have because then you're doing them just for you and you don't really have anyone, there's no other stakeholders, you know? It's just you and your silly stuff. And the next thing I have is don't start a business until you know exactly what you want to do with it. This is another thing I've seen in the crochet community also, is everyone just wants to sell stuff, but they don't actually know what they want to do with their business. Know what kind of voice you want to have in the world, I guess, in the market. A business can't really last without a purpose, and to make money is not exactly the strongest purpose, because to make money could mean a lot of things. Sometimes it is good to just go back to the basics and write out your mission statement. My goal with Mahal Made Co. was always just to share art that I create, hence Mahal Made Co., made with love, and I just wanted to share things that I create with love with people who also love it. And that has always been my business's purpose, and I will honestly admit I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do with the business when I started it. I just knew that, again, I wanted to sell my art and share it with people who might like it. But I think now I've kind of realized that I just want it to all be authentic to me. I feel like when you're an artist, it's all about you, and not even in a narcissistic way. It is the way that you express yourself, and I think that's perfectly fine, and I think that can be your purpose. Problem is, when you start making art that isn't authentic to you, then you kind of stray away from your purpose, if that makes any sense. And so it's always good to stay on track with simple things like mission statements, company descriptions, etc. Don't start your own small business if you don't exactly know what you want to do with it. Another thing is branding is important. This is something that I've always known due to my traditional business knowledge, just because I've been taking marketing classes since I was 14. So that sounded a little bit pretentious, but yeah, I was in a hospitality and marketing program in high school, so I've kind of always been in that mindset, and I do think that branding is really important. One of my favorite YouTubers who talks about branding and self-marketing is, I think her name is Zoe Unlimited. I will link her below here, wherever. She is incredible. Definitely recommend checking her out. She covers usually like pop artists, pop culture girls, but I think that it is just as useful for an artist because it is, again, all about you. But again, branding being important, something that I've known for a while, but I realized that not everyone knows this when they start out. I didn't exactly know what I wanted my brand to look like when I first started, which, again, not great. I've gone through a lot of logos, and my best friend Caitlin knows this because she's helped me like design some of them, and I've only since last year put together the kind of brand that I want, the kind of look that I want. It's very vintage, kitsch inspired, but it's still authentic to me, and I've got a little mascot that I think really represents me, especially since I wanted to branch out more into digital art rather than just box myself into fiber art. But yeah, my little mascot, her name is Mahal, and she is a mouse. But I do think that branding has definitely helped me out a lot. People are able to recognize me at in-person events now, especially because I've got my vending machine. The look of your in-person booth, also, if you plan on vending at markets or events, artist alleys, that is definitely something that helps people identify you. Branding is important because you want people to know who you are, and you want people to keep coming back to you. It always costs less to keep a customer instead of paying to acquire new ones. I definitely recommend knowing what you want your brand to look like from the start, because rebranding can be a bit jarring for an audience. I know that it was for my audience because I went from solely selling plushies to introducing some of my digital art and my paper crafts, and those were very different from each other. So definitely know what you want from the start, and it'll save you a lot of headache and your customers a lot more headache in the future. Another thing is, don't be weird or gatekeepy, and connect with your community, no matter what community that is, whether it is a digital art community, a crochet community, knit community, pottery, clay, craft, decadent. Connect with your community, especially online. And studying traditional business and marketing kind of like taught me to see all other crocheters as competition, which wasn't necessarily true. and I would never even like their posts on my like business account because I would be scared that they would think that I'm like copying them or something, or I'm like giving interactions to the enemy. But don't do that. Connect with and interact with other creators, bigger, smaller, same size. It's definitely easier to make connections with someone who's smaller than you or on the same level as you, because you guys are, you know, you're growing together, you're growing at the same time, maybe not same pace, but you're on the same level as it is. And all it takes sometimes is one share to another person's story. I can speak from experience. My Nana sweater color work chart post, I know, went a little bit more viral because some of my favorite creators were sharing on their stories, and those follow backs were like really big deals to me. Specifically, Ella from By Red Bean and Ray, I think it is, from By Hazy Moon, when they followed me back and they shared my stuff to their stories, one, got a lot more traction, and two, that was like a really big deal for me. I was like, oh my gosh, these are two of my favorite artists in the community. But yeah, please interact with your community. It really helps you rather than hurts you. Again, all it takes sometimes is one story post, one comment. This is another example. One of my mutuals now, Kaylin, I ended up doing an art trade with her because I was constantly like commenting, liking her stuff because I'm a really big fan of her work. I ended up making this beanie for her and she made me this little guy. Hold on. Literally cutest thing in the whole world. And she totally fits in with the rest of my collection, especially my Care Bear collection in the corner over there. Yeah, very awesome. And she gave me this little bracelet that I keep on my bear. Anyways, interact with your community, connect with your community, make friends. Also, be inspired to develop your own voice in the community. Don't feel pressured to copy other creators just because you see them having success with what they're doing, and don't decide to sell something just because you see someone else selling it. This isn't something that I've necessarily struggled with myself, but I often see beginner crocheters with this problem, and I think that's why we have such a big oversaturation problem in the amigurumi market, which I might do a whole separate video on the amigurumi community in general. I don't know if people are ready for that. Chances are if someone has success selling something, it's because they are the ones selling it, talent-wise, personality-wise, or just because of their following sometimes, or even because they're just really good at marketing their products. I think that it's important for artists to develop their own brand and their own voice, because I think that unique businesses and like fun concepts are so much more interesting and so much more memorable than copycats, for lack of a better word. I think that this applies both online and at markets. There are some booths that I'm just more drawn to because they look different. And there are some artists that I follow more closely because they are unique. Some examples I'd say are Tama Kid. I've been following her for a while and she is so cool. She's got a lot of just like fun like 2000s, 2010s inspired things, and it really like resonates with me and my inner child. Sunkissed Stitches. There are a lot of people trying to jump on her like ocean inspired bag wave, but I don't think anyone else does it like her. No tea, no shade, but she genuinely is so talented. She does so much beadwork and so much embroidery work, and her appliques are all handmade, so that in itself is so cool. Another tip I have is do not place so much focus on social media interactions. This is something that I know that I probably struggled with in the beginning, especially because I had a video go viral pretty early in my career, combined with everything that I learned from my traditional business classes. It led me to place way too much focus on trying to rely on virality instead of trying to build a loyal customer base. And as a small business, I think that community is key. If you're constantly trying to make something go viral, then you're not really connecting with the audience that you've already built up. And that, I think, is a mistake that I made in the beginning of my career. Feels weird calling it a career, I don't know. But I do think that it's a mistake I made. I feel like I was relying way too much on trying to make the next big TikTok instead of just trying to connect with the audience that I already had. Do not beg for interactions. It is so sad. Don't do that. And don't do any engagement bait. Actually, that is like a little peeve of mine, especially if you're an artist doing that. It's kind of like, I just made the song of the summer. Let people come to you naturally so that way you get an audience that genuinely likes what you're making, rather than a pity like, pity follow, pity comment that will eventually just die out. And in terms of the algorithm, I think that it is genuinely exhausting to try and keep up with what every individual person on Twitter, Threads, Instagram Reels, etc., YouTube Shorts tells you about how to keep up with each app's algorithm. I think that it's important to just be consistent. Most apps, I find, reward consistency, so just try to post at least a couple times a week and see how that works for you. And also interact with your audience and with other people, because I do think that that also helps. Do not spam though. Do not spam your followers, because you're gonna get drowned out. Also, make quality content. I know that that can mean a lot of things, but it really does come down to the lighting, your backdrop. Lighting and backdrop can also affect your branding as well. There's a really good example of it, like, she's in the fiber art community, but she always has this like a gamer blue purple aesthetic going on in her lighting alone. So I think that that's really important. Also, always take a few extra minutes to edit your photos and videos. Sometimes it really helps. Also, be aware of the different ways to launch or list products. As a small business, I relied way too much on only stocking what I had already ready to ship. When I had my first TikTok go viral, which was actually terrible. I wish I would have known about pre-orders, where basically the customer can buy the item even though it's not made yet, but you just have to be transparent about the shipping and processing times, and then you won't actually have to ship it out until it's actually made. Just know about the different ways that you can launch or list products. You don't always have to just stock what is readily available, especially if you are available to do pre-orders or commission, because it is important to have a lot of stock as a small business, and that can kind of be hard when you are a handmade business. Another thing I've learned is that if you do sell expensive things that take a lot of time to create, crochet is a great example, make sure that you also sell cheaper things that take less time to create. In other words, diversify your product line. It is so important to have a price range that isn't just super high or super low, whether you're online or in person. Especially if you're in person, I find that if someone really likes your aura, they will try their best to buy something from you, but sometimes they don't always have the funds to buy something super expensive, so it's really nice to have a cheaper option available. Or even sometimes at the end of an event, people will be like, is there anything I can get for $5? Because they just want to spend the rest of their money that they brought to spend. Especially if you're a handmade business, cheaper and simpler items are necessary to build up stock. One way that I build up my stock is through my vending machine. I make the tiny plushies that are a little bit faster for me, and I'm able to build up more stock that way. My fidget frogs and my fidget flowers, those definitely help me build up stock a little bit faster. I keep them in a little bowl. And you also don't have to sacrifice your branding when you do this. If you are a digital artist, you can have prints that take a little bit longer, a little bit more expensive, and you can also have stickers, which are a little bit cheaper, a little bit faster to make. And let's say you make plushies, you can also make smaller keychains. If you make crochet bags, you can also make smaller pouches. So this next segment is a little bit more targeted towards people who prefer to vend or are interested in vending in person. When it comes to markets or art pop-ups, artist alleys, etc., artist connections are key. Most of the cup sleeves that I've done in the past several months, I ended up becoming a vendor because the host reached out to me personally because we're mutuals or friends or something like that, or just because they've seen me at other events. Another thing is that not every market or artist alley or cup sleeve event will be worthwhile. Just because you can vendor at an event doesn't mean that you should. One reason for this would be that handmade products take a lot of time to create, so you may not have stock to do multiple events per month. And another thing is sometimes events just simply aren't managed well. This can be low promotion or a poor floor plan, or just a lack of communication between the host and the vendors, etc. We live and we learn. Be sure especially to do research before applying to an event and kind of find out if the audience for that event even matches your target audience, because that can definitely give you an idea of whether your items will sell. Another thing about in-person markets, a small cup sleeve or a craft fair, for example, never requires you to have a full-fledged convention artist alley level setup. You don't even need to have very much to start. This, for example, was my first craft fair setup and I made a decent amount of money. All you really need is to have stuff to sell and be ready to be social. But I do place a lot of emphasis on be ready to be social. There are so many times where I've just been drawn away from a booth because the artist was not really welcoming. Part of the reason people like to shop small business is because they like to connect with a real human being. And so definitely be ready to be social when you are looking to vend in person. I know I'm someone who easily gets pressured to buy something if I have a really nice conversation with the artist. So keep that in mind, there's probably other people like me. The last thing I would say is to just have fun. Always keep in mind why you started creating in the first place and don't lose sight of it. One of my big things this year is to always make sure that I am in touch with my inner child in every single thing that I do. I have it here on I have it here. It's not gonna focus. Hey! Okay, yeah. The most potent muse of all is our own inner child. I had to read that backwards. That's my personal reason for creating things. It's because I've always loved creating things ever since I was little. And part of the reason I'm even doing YouTube is because this is also something I wanted to do when I was little. It's also important not to get burnt out by the social media or business side of things. Again, just be yourself, especially when it comes to being a small business owner. People want you to be yourself because you are a person. So like I said earlier at the beginning of the video, I'm going to be giving away a free Nana sweater pattern to, let's say, 3 lucky subscribers because I've been a small business for 3 years. But all you have to do to enter is comment your Instagram username, subscribe to me, Mahal Made Co. here, and follow me, Mahal Made Co. on Instagram, and then you'll be entered. And then I will contact you via Instagram. Yeah. But that's all I have today. I hope this helps someone. Hope you had a good time. If you did, like, subscribe, share. Okay, thanks. Bye. Bye.